here now with more reaction. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. Senator, I am very interested in your thoughts on this. You are a strict constitutionalist. If you assert the Article 2 powers of a president, to me, that is a massive scandal. Your thoughts?
You know, this was not a well-kept secret in Washington. The scuttlebutt was they were calling Jill Biden Mrs. Wilson. They called her Mrs. Wilson because Woodrow Wilson suffered a debilitating stroke, in 1917, 1918, and basically she ran the country. So it's not even the first time this kind of thing has happened. It is an abomination. It is awful what has happened. I do think we will get to the truth of this, though, because there actually has to be a person who ran the auto pen. Someone had to do it. And I think that if we find that person, the next question is, who asked you to do that? And if that chain doesn't lead up to the president, I think that you will have a catastrophe, and they will have a catastrophe that they can't even contain. Now, there's a possibility as you ask them, they finally say, well, so-and-so told me to do it, so-and-so told me to do it, and then the president will in writing say, I told them to do it. I think it'll be very difficult to have the president actually come and testify. I think generally it will be very difficult to have doctors testify because of patient privacy. I think it will be very difficult to have family members unless they were running the auto pen. If Jill Biden was running the auto pen, you can make her testify. Anything beyond that, I think it will be difficult to have her come in.
But even if Joe Biden himself came in, he probably would just lie, in my view. He wouldn't want this to be a stain on his so-called legacy. And we now have heard some of her interview and her report. I mean, everything that he wrote in that report. Now we know why they didn't want to release the audio of the transcript of what happened here, because Joe was that bad. I would imagine if he went before a Senate committee or a House committee, he's not going to be up to the task. Would you agree?
Yeah, the interview with her was extraordinary. To have had a president, a leader of the free world, who was actually judged to be incompetent to testify, that he could not be a reliable witness, that he could not be a competent witness, and he couldn't stand trial for lack of competency, at the same time was the leader of the free world and the president of the United States. It's just extraordinary. And I think that audio coming out is so damaging to all those who, supported President Biden, went on and pampered him and kept him in power. People in the media, as well as his staff, are guilty of, if not a crime, a great disservice to the country.
You know, you mentioned Woodrow Wilson and his wife and the stroke that was debilitating in his life. There's one big difference, though, and that is we live in a nuclear age, and he has a nuclear football, and it's with the president at all times. And he was not capable, I think, of making that decision. And the fact that everybody knew it, hid it, lied about it, covered it up, we've got to know who is really in charge here, because they would have been in charge of that decision. That's the chilling part. It's a lot different than 18. Senator,
without
we appreciate
question,
it.
a much more complicated
You get the
world.
last word.
Thank you.
Way more complicated, absolutely.
Question.
Senator Rand Paul, thank you. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.